time I close my eyes, I see the night again. In all the dreams I have, I hear the sound of angels cry. Take me back, I need to find those distant memories. Hold on close, only my fire through it all. In all my life, I've been searching for a better world, but time has let me down. Here we stand on this broken land. Raise my head up high, I can see the sun. We are the children with fire in the sky, and we are the future. Our souls in the night will never feel the change, it seems it's like the same old day to me. Nothing here I have to live before they capture me. In all my life I've been searching for a better world, but time has let me down. Here we stand on this broken land. Raise my head up high, I can see the sun. We are the children with fire in the sky. We are the future. Our souls in the night will never
Here it is, Thursday night, and we are live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one half of your hosting crew, Dixie Dave.
And you're actually on my side, Dave. I just noticed that. Normally I'm on that side, ain't I? But you must have got in here first because I was actually running behind today. But yeah, so we got a fun one today, Dave. We're going to be looking back at we're going back to the Yoho Municipal Arena, I think is what Jason called it. It was my backyard, but man, we had some great matches back there, and this one, Studio Taping 80, was one of the last ones we did back there.
Yep, and keep in mind, yes, this was filmed in a backyard, but we were not a backyard fed.
No, that term didn't exist, man. We didn't. I really don't like, and I don't know about you, David. I kind of tired of that whole backyard wrestling comparison with us because that's a whole different element.
Right. I mean, we were more into the pure wrestling factor. We weren't into, breaking light tubes over each other's heads or having extreme matches or any of that crap.
I gotta correct myself. I don't want to offend the ones out there. There are backyard feds out there that are actually trying to do it right, but I'm talking about the ones that are doing what you just said. The crazy stuff. So
yeah, but no, we have a really fun show today. We're going back in time. I noticed during the Countdown Crusher, you still had information up from last week.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Did I have the wrong overlay on or something?
You had the wrong date.
Oh, what is it?
For the show that we were watching.
August 21st. Isn't that the one?
Oh, nope. You were showing that we were watching from December 19th.
Oh, that date didn't get changed on the overlay. Oh, well. It's going to be August 21st, 1986. And that's the date of this one. But more importantly, we have a special guest that we have coming on for this. We're trying to get both of the Super Ds, but we're going to have at least one half of them, Dave, with Troy Dusosky that's going to join us. And I'm looking forward to talking to Troy.
Right. I mean, just from our little time behind the curtain, it was fun chatting with him, fun seeing him again, you know. I mean, in 36 years, we've all changed quite a bit.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. And you know, and besides the wrestling, he's got a huge career with soccer that we can talk about, and both him and Todd, and you know, they went on to be professional soccer players. We've talked about it, and but anyways, and it's gonna be fun to watch this. This is a good match with these guys today too on the show. They go against the Blade Runners, and it's all hell broke loose in that. And we thought, I remember Matt. We'll talk about it when we get going, but it gets heated in this match with these two teams. So let's bring Troy in, Dave. Let's bring him in. Troy Dusosky.
All right, let's welcome to the studio one half of the Super D's.
Super D1, I believe.
Yeah, one or two. You know, we go by both names for many, many years. So,
of course, now when you guys see these guys, they're just they a lot of times they were compared to like our midget division because they were so small. But they were identical twins. I, for one, never could tell them apart. I was constantly calling them Todd Troy when I'd refer to them because I just couldn't tell them apart. Matt knew who they were, but I was horrible at it. And but yeah, they were so Troy. When you know, I know when you came on the show, it was in 1985, I think in February or January or February, early. And then in looking at one of your interviews that they did with you, they talked about why did you join the show? And you said, well, you were watching it for a while and you just liked it. So is that how it was? Did you guys have cable?
yeah, we had cable, and then I know the Kelseys. I think Matt got into it a little bit beforehand, who lived right across the street from us. So, you know, everybody in the neighborhood knew when my dad was watching wrestling or rented the WrestleManias and stuff, you could come over, but you couldn't say a word. So I think just always been a wrestling family. Loved it, and that's probably why at 9 and 10 years old we looked the part, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, are you still watching the products?
Yeah, a little bit. Honestly, with you know, the 14, 11-year-old and working, and to really sit down and watch wrestling or even soccer games, which I did for most of my life. My wife asked me if I have something better to do or we got to get something done. So I pick and choose what I get to watch. But yeah, I was tuning in last weekend in the neighbor's garage. He had some Monday Night Raw on and stuff, and I was like, oh, it's same stories and those big dudes.
Yeah. So I've talked a lot about you guys as far as how daring and bold you were right out of the gate. And before we actually do the live stream, I put together a little bonus footage when you first came on the show that we're going to watch first. And this is going to give you an example.
Stories.
This is going to give you an example of what I'm talking about when I said these guys were fearless. Just a little, I'll bring it in here now.
There's 30 seconds left in this match.
30 seconds.
Between Rough Ryan and the
Bring the audio
Super
down
D's.
just a little bit here. So this is them getting thrown out of the ring. They dove out like they're diving into a swimming pool.
Oh, my guys can take it.
I don't even know which one that is, but just don't. This is concrete floor, guys. I mean, and they do it again.
Oh, it looks like he was trying to get the Irish whip on, but he gets thrown out of the ring.
I mean, that is just amazing at that age to be doing that type of thing.
He gets
Fearless
thrown out of
is
the
the
ring,
word.
folks.
1, 2,
And as he lays there,
5, get back!
Crusher laughing at them.
Oh gosh.
And it was a staple for a while. They just them getting thrown out of the ring was such a and then coming back in.
Ref starts counting. He whips him back in.
A little bit of a
vicious throw
on that hard wooden stage.
There's the first career concussion.
We'll have another interview with a D's. What does a D stand for? Dusosky. Oh, okay. How do you feel about being on Peterson's family? Well, it's okay. Why did you choose to be on his side? Because I'm sick of that crossing.
Oh, you are you? Sick of that crossing. Yeah, that's just a little bit of a teaser there. We just wanted to show. I just wanted to show a little bit of how courageous to get those guys were. There wasn't another lightweight team that could compare to these guys as far as being willing and daring to do anything. I mean, and that's why they became pretty good at it. As we're going to see in this match.
If I remember, they were also first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame. So we don't decide it. That was all decided on the voting, and most of the votes came in from outside of this country, believe it or not. About 60% of the votes came from outside the U.S. And it's just because people that weren't familiar with their show come across it, and then they watch all the stuff on Pivot Share, and then that's who votes. But anyways, yeah, the Barbarians were neck and neck with you guys, and you guys beat out the Barbarians in that first year for the Hall of Fame, which I'm wearing the Super D's. They're on the 2014 Hall of Fame shirt.
Nice.
With the Course Crusher Crossen.
I've got to get one of those for sure. Yeah. Looking back at some of the early videos, it's like, I mean, me and Todd were doing that in our living room nonstop all day. When you're an identical twin, it's 5 minutes of killing each other, 5 minutes of best friends, 5 minutes of killing each other. And I watch, a lot of the UFC stuff now, and I'm like, oh, we would have been pretty good at that because we were submitting each other and tapping ever since we were little, so.
Oh, I remember I slept over at Matt's one day, and you guys were right across the street, and here you come, two blonde kids, just shorts, no shirt, running over and wrestling the whole way. I mean, it was just like wrestling outside in the yard all that whole night. Brian Peterson was over for that. Yeah. And, and Matt and Brian, man, did they ever get into it. But growing up right next to each other. But yeah, that's I imagine, we never had you guys go against each other, but I could imagine growing up, that happened more than once.
I was thinking that today. I was like, man, we should have turned on each other and went our own ways in a few matches, and those would have been pretty entertaining. Kind of like what we have for the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday with the Kelsey brothers battling it out. They're obviously on different sides of the ball, but
right.
Yeah, it's pretty cool for their mom. I'm not sure if she's doing the coin toss or if they allowed that or not, but it'll be pretty cool for the Kelsey family.
Yeah. And of course, we're talking about the football players.
Yeah, not the Matt Kelsey family, the Kelsey. So.
And yeah, and living across the street from Matt. So who got you into the show? Was it Matt or was it Ryan or?
I mean, only being 9 and 10, the memory's a little vague, but I'm pretty sure it had to have been Matt because he was a big kid for his age, and I remember him throwing us all around the neighborhood. So it would take all three of us to get Matt down, and I'm sure one day he's like, "You guys are coming to the studio with me and meeting Sean and getting after it."
Yeah, Matt. And then I was gonna say too, the name, the Super D's. I know when you first came on, they were calling you the Super Destroyers, and I don't know who came up with these names. Did you guys come up with the Super D's?
I have no idea. That might have been something in studio. They couldn't say Dusosky, so it's the Super D's. And
right.
Honestly, that name has come about many times. Even when I'm doing now, I hear kids are like, oh, that I'm coaching in soccer. Like, we looked up your Wikipedia, coach, and you were a professional wrestler and the Super D's, and been called the Super D's many, many times over the years.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it was, and you guys, I suppose we should start the show. We can keep talking as we go. Dave, I'm going to pull up the show and we'll get it started, and then we'll just keep talking. So this is Studio Taping 80 from, like I said, Yoho Municipal. This is kind of aired just like it was when it would aired over cable television. All I do is I just bring the volume down on any kind of commercial music like this, and because otherwise we get flagged for copyrights for it. But so if it's low enough, it doesn't get flagged. And most of these highlights you see in this intro are from the May 9th card. That first Armory card we did. And yeah, this was a 1986 in August. This is like the peak of the league here. We're getting ready to do that big card at the Armory in October, and that's where this show is coming from. It's leading up to that event. And we just finished the first two Armory cards. This is probably the height of the show, really, right around this time.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
you know what,
about the only songs.
Well, I was gonna say the
Go ahead,
Super D's. Here's what I remember with these guys is the whole 1985. They just got their tails kicked pretty much in the matches, putting Ryan and Mean Dean and Rough Ryan and Dynamite Dude over all the time. But then they were gone for a little bit, and they came back for our 50th anniversary shows when a lot of them come back, and the Super D's were one of them. And as editing the show, I always watch everything, and I'm watching their matches. I'm like, God, there's some chemistry here with these two now. There is actually some offense going on. And I'm thinking, we're going to do more than just having them put Ryan over and Mean Dean. We're going to do something with you. That's when the light bulb went off with me with doing something with you guys. Because I knew we could do more than just having you help put Ryan over, right? Rough Ryan.
Yeah.
And Chris Barger. Like I said, we were promoting that October card, so in between the matches, we got a lot of these interviews. And they're just trying to build up for that October card. So the October card, if I'm right, I think when we talked about it when we aired that show, it was your mom that didn't want you wrestling because of the soccer camp or something. Am I right?
Yeah, I think the soccer at 10, 11 years old really started to pick up on the select soccer side, and
yeah,
Saturdays. I mean, we were going to the studios on Saturday mornings, was it? And,
yeah.
Yep.
And coming to wrestle on Saturday mornings, and it was between that and hockey. I mean, we were big into hockey as well as most people in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So just the combination of two sports, and I wish you would have stuck with it longer. The memories I had were amazing. I remember going down to the cable studio, and it was a blast.
Yeah, I mean the studio was fun. The ring wasn't the best. It wasn't really a working ring, but when we got the ring that you guys are going to be in today, that actual wrestling ring, that's when our wrestling really started to evolve more. And just so everybody knows, we're watching TV Taping 80 from Yoho Municipal on August 21st, 1986. And this is we're three older guys here now, but this is us when we were kids. I always want to point that out, so when people come across this, they're thinking, "What's going on here?" Well, we're looking back at what we were when we were young. Back in the day.
Exactly. Hence the name NWF Rewind.
Yep. Going back in time. Thandar, Tim Holland, he was good. He was rough though. He was rough in the ring, man.
Oh yeah.
That I remember. So this is it. We had the camera up on my garage roof, so we had the down shot, and we're going right off the bat. We got the Super D's and the Blade Runners, and this is the only time you guys wrestled, because on the October card you couldn't, and you got stripped, and we did that just to build up for a rematch, which never happened. But this is the first time the Blade Runners came in, and I don't know what happened in this match, Troy, but something happens where you guys start kind of going at it. And I remember Matt was at ringside with me. He's like, "Those guys are going at it in there."
Was Adam Nash one of the Blade Runners?
No, Adam wasn't one of the Blade Runners. He was gone by this time, but he was in the beginning. Adam Nash. But these two were from Coon Rapids. Maybe it was part of that Coon Rapids Ramsey rivalry. I don't know. And maybe they just weren't cooperating. That's a lot of times what starts it.
Maybe during the match they'll see the point where something snaps and it'll jog a memory.
Yeah.
No, if I remember correctly, the Blade Runners were, oddly enough, Todd and Troy Dusosky.
Yep. From that apartment complex you lived in, right, Dave?
Yep. Yep, they actually lived right down the hall from me.
It was always friends of friends, pretty much how you got into our show a lot of times. And
exactly.
so I don't know which one's in the ring. I can tell. Troy usually had a little bit longer hair.
I mean, that might have been me because I threw a lefty first, and I was a lefty, so.
Oh, were you? And Todd was right-handed?
And Todd kicked right, I kicked left, so that might be the telltale sign here.
Throws him into the ropes. Comes out. Big drop kick square to the jaw.
So remember now, the Super Ds are probably 4 feet, a little over 4 foot tall, and this ring is 20 by 20. So when you see these guys going up off the top rope, and which you will, just think of how far they're flying across that ring at that age.
It was definitely fun. I mean,
it looks like we were just working them in this one.
Yes.
We got tired of losing.
Well, yeah, because like I said, you guys lost a lot in the 85, but it was after that 50th show when we started saying we're going to do something different. That's when we put the titles on you guys, and we started going a whole different direction with your team. You know what the thing I think of, Troy, is how you guys got really good in the end here, and just think if we would have kept the show going and you would have grew into the our heavyweight division of us, how good you would have been then.
Yeah, no, that's darn mother.
Well, it wasn't just your mom. It was
No, I hear ya.
a big thing. What happened was Luscious Larry wanted to get rid of our whole lightweight division in the beginning of '87. That's what killed it. You know, we merged with them guys, and that's really what killed it. But yeah, we should have never done that. That's my biggest regret, is doing that whole NCWA merger thing and getting in with the bigger guys. But yeah, this
you got the ref a little bit there.
see, that was a real DDT there. I mean, this is where I remember Matt was saying, these guys we might have to separate them.
It is a pin. He had him pinned for the longest time. But look at that. That's he had him pinned for at least a 10 count.
Now, Crusher, we just got a comment in.
What's that? I see we got a bunch of comments. I've not been following.
Oh, yeah. Now, I'm not sure who this would be.
Let me see. Did we come up with... oh, that's Chad Roundabout. That's Rockin' Roundabout.
Oh, okay.
No, we always go off the top rope in our league. We never had the no not going off the top rope rule. AWA had that for a while, and I know the PWA had that.
Yep.
But we always had it legal. Yeah, this megaphone. I mean, who was that guy, Dave? Was he from your complex too?
I'm not sure. I can't tell who it is.
Well, I know he never showed up again, but he was like the manager. But he's kind of like a Diamond Dallas Page. He was big enough to be a wrestler, but he was a manager.
Now wait a minute, look at the ref. Look at this. The manager had a chokehold on Super D number 2.
Okay, so Super D2, so that's in the ring there. That would be Todd. If Chris is right. You guys are trying to do your finishing move. It's where the one would throw him against the ropes, and then he'd come off the top rope. But look at this, flying all the way. I mean, that's 3/4 way across the ring at that age, man.
Just shows the athleticism.
Yeah. Well, and this is the other thing with the Super Ds. They got the biggest pop on May 9th at the Armory. They got the biggest applause when they went out of any team. That's another thing. So that's how I knew, and I even mentioned it in the article in ABC Papers that the Super Ds are our most popular team, and they were at that time. I think the reason you guys were so popular, Troy, is because you had the identical twin look and the smaller.
You could
I
work.
want to say kind of like midget kind of look for like midget wrestlers, and people like that. They were entertained with that. So you guys did beat the Blade Runners. So technically,
we played the part well. I mean, just from watching flying through the turnbuckles in the highlights. to this jumping across the ring with some real ropes. It was like, that's pretty sweet. It's been a long time since I've watched this stuff. I watched him when he first gave the VHS tapes, our matches. I watched several of those back then, but it's been a few years.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's great.
Do you remember coming to the studio to do these interviews?
Yep, I do. I mean, I remember reffing. I remember managing. I remember the Armory. I remember handing out some like teddy bears to some girls or something, and then
Yep, that was a July card.
That's when the phone line started ringing at home, and might have been our first girlfriends or something from that match. And yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah,
it's great because a lot of times you do things like this when you're young, and no one captures it, you know. And you guys have done a great job of keeping all these in line and bringing back some good times.
Yeah, I mean, just think if we never kept the footage or anything, it would just be all in our memories.
Yeah.
And but I wish I had everything. You know, there's when I circulated the tapes to all the different cable companies, some of our tapes got lost because I wasn't. VHS tapes in the 80s were expensive, and I couldn't afford to dub every show for every system, so I would just send the masters out, let them circulate. So, like the Sandburg Middle School show that we did, which you didn't show up for, but Todd did. That one, which was after the October card, that tape got lost, so I don't even have the footage for it, unfortunately. You know, it's funny, that match we just watched, you guys, that was your last tag team match.
That was our last tag team, man. And we were getting pretty good.
Yeah, because you did come to the October card, but remember you couldn't wrestle, so you were there. And Todd had one more match because he wrestled Sandburg Middle School, and that was done after the October card.
What's crazy is all the hairstyles are coming back. You know, I got a 14-year-old son right now, and he's got that dude's hair.
Yeah, I know. I see pictures of your kids on Facebook, and they remind me when you guys were on the show. You know, same with Todd's kids. You know, as far as how they look. What else was I going to ask? So let's talk a little bit. So how did with the soccer careers? Now you both played professional soccer, right? In indoor soccer league.
We both played a little of. Well, there's 3 variations of soccer, and we played all 3. There's outdoor soccer, indoor soccer, and futsal. And we, so both of us played most of our career in the NPSL, the National Professional Soccer League. When we were 19, Bruce Miller, who used to run the National Sports Center in Blaine, he used to play for the Minnesota Strikers back in the day, and one of Canada's youngest still to this day, national team player at 17 years old or whatever. He saw us playing at the Sports Center, and we were like 14, and we'd always be playing with these Division I guys that would come back over Christmas break. And so at like 14, 15 years old, and we held our own, and they always needed extra bodies. And so my dad would drive us down there. Even if it was 26 below zero, we'd be going in and playing some indoors down there at the Sports Center. And Bruce Miller, then eventually we hired him at Anoka High School to be the assistant to Pete Hayes. I remember at the USA Cup, we used to work concession stands, and we hired Bruce Miller, who kind of knew what he was doing, because no knock on Pete Hayes, the legendary Pete Hayes, but he wore like Rawlings baseball cleats on the soccer sideline. So Bruce Miller ended up coaching us our senior year. And then he got the call. We both went off to a semester of college, and then he got the call to go be the head coach in Cleveland with the Cleveland Crunch. And he brought both of us down there, and at 19 years old, we both signed our first contracts. And then Todd played about 14 and a half seasons, and I played 16 full seasons. I played 6 in Cleveland and 10 in Milwaukee.
Todd the Milwaukee Wave, right?
Milwaukee Wave. Todd played a year and a half. And for the first time ever in our lives, the Super Ds got split up. Todd got traded to Milwaukee. So we played against each other for 4.5 seasons. They beat us in the final, and then eventually our father passed away in 2001, and I ended up getting traded from Cleveland to Milwaukee, and so we reunited again and played together for 9 seasons. And we've got several. I think each of us have 6 championship rings, a few together, a few of our own. But we put our time in, and then one of the greatest things also was playing with the U.S. national futsal. Todd's played in China. I've played in Brazil a bunch of times. I played in the 2007 Pan Am Games. Representing your country, doing something you love is awesome.
And what is it like playing against the international soccer players?
It's almost unexplainable when you're overseas, when you're in Spain and you're playing in front of 20, 30,000 people in an arena. And it's almost, the futsal, it almost has like the wrestling feel, because me and Todd, I think the indoor leagues loved us and the fans hated us, the opposing fans, because we did bring some wrestling to the indoor soccer. You know, we would throw some suckets after some goals, and Baltimore fans, they made T-shirts the one year in the finals that I think they gave out like 5,000 shirts. They always had 10,000 plus at their games, and 5,000 shirts said "Official Dusosky Family Hater" on the front, and on the back it said "See ya in hell." And I was like, that's when you know you did something right. And then I also remember we were playing
the heel turn for the Super Ds at that point then with them guys, huh?
Yeah, we were playing in Spain, and it was over 20,000 fans inside this arena, and it's tough for us to compete against the Brazils and the Spains of the world at futsal, which is a sport court form of soccer. And so we're losing 4-5-0. It's time to start throwing some shoulders. And so every single time we touch the ball, the fans are yelling, because we were small in the wrestling here, but we were pretty big guys for soccer players. And about 5'11", 200 pounds, pretty big guys for soccer players, especially when you're playing in Spain and Brazil. You got some smaller guys, and we started throwing some shoulders into guys, and all the fans, we loved it. We soaked it up. We kind of sold the game a little bit. All the fans are yelling "Gordo" and "Boo" and whistling at us every time we touch the ball. And I think the NWF prepared us to be able to handle that.
Well, you know, we used to have those practice sessions at Fred Moore. One weekend we would tape, and that following weekend we would just practice. And I remember working with all you, like Steve and I would work with everybody, trying to get you guys to polish up, because we were getting ready for that Armory card.
Yep.
And we wanted to kind of polish up our wrestling, and we did some of those practice sessions in the garage too, before we got into Fred Moore. But we used to do that stuff in the garage. But yeah, that was. So you know, what I remember, you guys were into soccer, and I also remember being into tennis. It was always soccer and tennis in the summer. It seemed that we were always competing for your time with. And when did you realize that soccer was going to be the sport?
Yeah, I vaguely remember the tennis, but having a twin brother, you play every sport in any sport because you always got someone to play against. But I think soccer kind of, you know, your freshman, sophomore year, we played hockey all the way up until there. Being from Anoka, like you had to play hockey or you didn't have many friends. And I think it was time, you know, we needed new skates and breezers and everything. So we hung up the hockey skates about our sophomore year, freshman year, and then focused pretty much on soccer full time. Never knowing, never knew. Obviously we wanted to be a professional athlete, but never really knew it. Even at 18 years old, that a year later would be signing a professional contract and traveling the country, playing in Mexico and Canada, and we both won a championship our first year, which was cool.
Well, that had to be something to do what you would love doing, be able to do it professionally. That had to be really a thrill.
Yeah, when I'm coaching kids these days, I'm like, you know, they look you up online, which is a lot easier to do nowadays. Hey, you look somebody up online and you see what they've done, where they've been, and I'm like, you know, being able to do what you love to do and then being able to see a lot of the world and never have to spend your own money doing it was really special. You know, me and my wife are actually going to Curacao on Valentine's Day for a week. We haven't been anywhere for a while, and without the kids, and so just being able to see some country, but we got to pay for it now.
Yeah. So now,
well,
Todd,
you get to see things on your own time.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, Todd, he's still in Minnesota, but what brought you to Tennessee then?
Youngest of my 3 stepdaughters was going to be 18 and off to college. Our son was about to start 6th grade. Me and my wife had always talked about getting south. Just felt like sitting in the northern states, you waste a lot of time inside, and we always wanted to get south. And so it felt like that year of 2020 when COVID hit. I remember they lifted the restrictions like May 13th, the day after our birthdays. And we're like, well, let's drive to North Carolina and let's drive through Nashville and see. And with my older stepdaughters living in the Wisconsin area still, Nashville's an 8.5 hour car ride. So we choose Nashville. We like it. It's a great city. It has, I guess it hadn't snowed here for 5 years until we moved down here. Now the last 2 winters it snowed. And they freak out down here. I mean, they shut down everything. The kids had a whole week off of school last week because it was raining. Honestly, like there's no salt trucks.
Yeah, they're not used to that. Even if there was salt trucks, they're just not used to the snow and driving in it.
So I think they put in like 9 or 10 snow days a year just to have them in there to use. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a good city. There's not a city like Nashville with all the live music downtown, and you're 6 hours from the ocean. You're 3 hours from the Smoky Mountains. It's a pretty good place, and it seems like everybody comes to visit Nashville. So I don't know if either of you two have ever been, but it's a great city.
Yeah, I've never been out east. Dave, you're from the hills of Tennessee, aren't you? Dixie Dave, right?
Yeah. Yep. Well, no, actually, no. If you think about it, it wasn't Tennessee; it was Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky, yeah. Yeah. So, we seen there in the end there, Mr. Macho and Pretty Boy Taylor decide to do the whole attack on Crusher Crossen. That's what's happening there. And Matt's they took Kelsey out outside the ring, so he's laying on the ground out there as well. I'm looking forward to Matt coming on with us probably sometime next month. Hopefully we get him. But I'm sure he's going to have some stories to share too. Matt I was telling Dave last week, he was a diehard back then for the show. Like he wasn't running it like I was, but he was just as vested. Matt was.
Well,
and you know what? It was probably Matt.
Diehard.
Well, we were. But I think it was Matt probably who came up with the Super Ds, if I had to guess. He was good at names for people.
Yeah,
I know that
in
the original interviews, you guys were referred to, Rough Ryan referred to you as Terrible Troy and Terrific Todd.
Probably something like
It's
that.
going to be your names initially.
Yeah, like being only 9-10 years old, and the memories aren't as good as probably Matt probably can remember more. He was probably 13, and
oh, I know, I hear you. It's got to be hard to remember everything. What is your biggest memory? Like, what do you remember the most?
so I remember the Armory, and I remember going to Fred Moore, going down the steps down to Fred Moore, and then I remember your garage, and I remember the cable studio. We thought the cable studio was super cool with the cameras set up and all that stuff. I remember one time I think we got into those bloody nose things. And I remember I think I put one in my nose once, typical 9-year-old, put it in my nose and it got stuck and I started to like panic. I didn't tell anybody, and all of a sudden it came shooting out my mouth.
Yeah, the blood capsules.
Blood capsules, yeah.
Yeah, that had to happen in the garage. That's where we used them.
For sure. I also remember, practicing the double drop kicks at home, getting the timing down and stuff like that. But we watched. I mean, my dad, he didn't miss an episode of wrestling, so
he was a fan, huh?
So he was a big fan, and that you're watching it, you're doing it while it's on. I'm sure he yelled at us many, many times to stop wrestling when it was on. But
You guys ready?
I remember.
Well, here's the question.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Here's a question for you. With your dad being a fan of wrestling, did he tune into the show that we did?
oh yeah, my dad, he didn't miss a practice. He didn't miss anything. He definitely thought it was cool.
Yeah, there were even times I remember your dad at Fred Moore watching.
Yep. Oh yeah. One thing for sure, miss him. He loved his boys and our sisters both were college soccer players at Mankato, and oh yeah, anything to do with wrestling. He was.
You know, when I was over there, I remember how I mentioned I stayed over at Matt's one day, and so Matt had a younger brother, of course, Ryan Kelsey, Rough Ryan, but he also had another younger brother named Wade,
Yep.
Wade Kelsey, and Wade wanted to be on the show so bad, but Matt's dad said, nah, we'll have to give him a couple of years. He's just a little young yet. But I'll tell you something. He was a Tasmanian devil, that kid. He would have been hell on wheels had he got into the NWF. Wade Kelsey.
Yep, I think he lives out in Seattle or something like that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Ryan. And Matt in, I mean, gosh, 30 years, which would be awesome to see them. And I can't wait to see what Matt's like when he's on the show. I'm going to tune in and.
Yeah, I mean, I ran into it. The last time I seen Matt was we had ran into each other at a WWE event at the Target Center, and he was there with his young boy, and I was there with a couple of the guys back from the show, and we just crossed into each other and talked for a little bit. But other than that, I haven't seen Matt. That was the only time I saw Matt. That's the first time I saw Matt in like 30 years too.
Yeah. Yeah, me and my brother, when we were, I think it was Milwaukee. We were went to a WW or a Raw show, a Monday Night Raw, and we had front row tickets because they were at the arena that we were in. And still the knucklehead that I am, Ric Flair's coming to the ring, and I told my brother, like, I'm gonna get him. Watch, I'm gonna get him. And Ric Flair came strutting by, walked past me, and I horse collar tackled him by the robe so bad. He was so pissed and so red. He got in the ring and grabbed the mic and came walking over, and he's like, "And you, little boy, I'll take your girlfriend right from you," and woo, you know. It's like that was a blast. Like, I got in Ric Flair's head, and then Goldberg came and like the security for Raw was a lot of the security for they worked the arena and stuff, and so they kind of knew we loved wrestling, and they're like, what are these Dusoskys gonna do? And then Todd's like, you gotta chop Goldberg, and he comes walking by. So Goldberg came walking by, and I chopped him so hard he was really pissed too, and he got in the ring for his whole match. He had my handprint on his chest. Yeah. Those are fun. That was probably the last wrestling event that I was at, but I tell my neighbors here in Nashville, I'm like, because they were asking, you guys were pro wrestlers? I was like, heck yeah, we were, the Super D's, baby. And
yeah.
And I tell them about my Ric Flair and Bill Goldberg experience.
Yeah, I mean, back in '86 when I got to meet Eddie Sharkey and knew him, he would ref the WWF shows, house shows at St. Paul Civic Center, and because I knew Eddie, I could get in the back.
Yeah.
And talk and hang out with them. But yeah, that's I never was that daring to get in the face of anything with the AWA or the WWF, but
maybe the Milwaukee's best got a hold of me to build up my courage for that.
Yeah, a little bit of alcohol would always help. Slick Steenerson in the ring, such a talent he was. He was so good.
Oh yeah.
This looks like a 6-man tag, right? Mr. Destroyer, Slick Steenerson, and
the Mr. Nice Guys.
Oh,
and
yeah, they're still a team.
Yeah, it was both Mr. Nice Guys, and I forgot who they're teaming with.
And Steenerson.
Yep.
Then it looks like Kelsey's Matt Kelsey with the Express.
So I always had the question, like, where did you get the good ring from and stuff? Did you guys have to build it, or?
No, so actually I told this story last week, but I'll tell it again. It's the way we got this ring was when we did that May 9th card, the very first Armor card you guys were on.
Yep.
We had that ring that we kind of built for the show, and it fell apart on us. We couldn't have our Battle Royal because it broke. And Tom Yell from ABC Papers in the sports section wrote the big article on us after that Armory card. And we talked about the ring failing and we need to come up with something. Well, some guys out in Hutchinson, Minnesota somehow got a hold of that article. They read it. They called Tom Yell and got my contact information and said, hey, we got a professional wrestling ring that we want to sell. Would you be interested? We see you here, you could use it. And the rest is history. It just happened to be the luck of Tom Yell reading an article in the paper that got exposure to them, who sold us the ring for like $500, which back then was a lot, but really isn't that much. For a ring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
especially
real working ring.
when you figure rings nowadays are running. Yeah, especially when you figure now real rings run, $7-8 grand.
Yeah. And that ring was 20 by 20. It was a pretty full-size ring, and it was a breakdown ring, so it had a center spring in the middle. It was great to work in, because it didn't.
Oh yeah.
Like I compared this ring to Eddie Sharkey's ring, and it was night and day difference, because Eddie Sharkey's ring was hard as hell. But our ring
didn't Eddie try and get the ring?
Yeah, he wanted our ring so bad, but. And Rick Pitts, this is reffing. He was he was a friend of you guys' in the apartments over there, and he was also our acting James W. Wilson, our president of the league. We had him as kind of our Stanley Blackburn guy.
Yeah.
On interviews and stuff. They're working on the leg now. And Troy, do you remember the time when we tried doing a taping out here and it was raining like crazy and we couldn't do? We were trying to like erect a tarp thing to go over the ring because it was raining so hard. So we could try to stay dry to set up the ring and do the show. And
were we hiding out in the garage a little bit too? Or yeah,
we were, because we had no other. It was just downpouring like a monsoon. And everybody was there because we were going to do a taping in the backyard, but we just couldn't get. We were trying to erect a big tarp over the ring, in the right where it is now, and we'd get it. Steve would be on one side, I'd be up on the roof of the garage. We'd get this thing all jacked up, and then it would just crash down when it would fill up with water.
Did you how was the neighbors and stuff when you had this stuff going on? Do you remember?
Oh, I knew all the neighbors pretty well. Yeah. Like I knew the Barb and Ken back there and the Millards next door, so they all knew I was doing the show. Yeah. So they knew it was going on.
Yeah, it'd be fun to get back in here.
They had to get back in the ring. Yeah, we came close to doing a reunion show back when we did the documentary. The Untold Story.
Well, speaking of reunions, something Crossen and I have talked about is, next year is the 40th anniversary of the first tournament. Or, no, excuse me, the 40th anniversary of the league forming.
Yeah, from the conception of the league.
And we're semi in talks about doing something to commemorate the anniversary.
Yeah,
I'd like to do something in Anoka. Like last year, they had wrestling as part of the Halloween festival stuff, and maybe if we could get in with doing like a panel type thing or something to talk about what we did. I think that'd be kind of cool. And we're working with the Minnesota Wrestling Hall of Fame with Carol Castle. She's all, she's all wanting to help with this on it too. So.
Right.
No, do I recall my mom possibly when she ran into you and you told her you had these videos and things like the VHS tapes and you got those to her that there was possibly going to be like a documentary, a movie or something coming out of this? Or
yeah, we did the documentary, the NWF The Untold Story. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, that's actually on Prime. You can, if you go on Prime Video, you can.
Okay.
That's on there. Yeah, Dave's got the DVD there.
Sweet.
Looks like that. We did that, and then for a while there, that Hollywood was wanting to do a story. Now I don't know where they're at. Me and Charlie. They invited us out to Warner Brothers. We went on the lot and talked a lot about. They had all these concepts of what they want. They wanted to do kind of like a Sandlot type movie.
Yeah.
And wrestling's part of it.
Yep.
Then the Rat Pack neighborhood type thing. That's kind of like where they were going with it. But I don't know, that kind of thing with Hollywood, and I don't know if you ever dealt with it, but it's like things can be exciting one minute and then it dies out the next.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Looks like he's trying to get the figure
it's
four.
just, if wrestling ever gets really popular again, that'll probably resurface again.
Oh,
You know?
a knee.
And I'm not sure if you've seen them, Troy, but all the Armory cards
Yeah, they're all on DVD.
are on.
Throw kicking on him. Look at ref. You gotta get him out of there, ref.
Yeah, this, I'm looking at the stuff around that ring, that big 2x4. I remember they brought that in one time as a foreign object. But you know, you guys though, Todd, you and Todd, the way you got thrown out of that ring in the beginning, did you remember getting ever hurt doing that?
I mean, I vaguely remember, getting an egg on the elbow or
Yeah.
it hurt, but it was like we were trying to make a name for ourselves, and we loved it so much you couldn't be hurt. You had to get back in there.
I don't know which one it was, but there was in the garage, I was wrestling Mike, and one of you, either you or Todd, were the ref. And Mike did an airplane spin with me. And my head and either you or Todd's head hit in that airplane spin. And I remember that because I started seeing stars. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that might have been me now that you mention it.
Do you remember that?
What is
Yeah.
Mr. Destruction
Oh,
trying to do?
here comes board.
Yeah, that 2x4. Yeah, this is a great vantage point for the camera. When we did our first card out in the backyard, we had the camera set up over to the right side of the ring on the grass, kind of looking at the ring. And that view was just, it wasn't that great because you're looking at it at your standing view. Being up on high like this is a great view for the ring.
Right.
You know?
Well, the other angle you're watching it as a fan,
There goes Mr.
as the
Right.
fans would see from ringside. This
Yep.
you can see everything going on.
Stay in the headlock. Oh, and Miss Bulldog. This is getting exciting, folks.
This is where Bulldog Butcher is commentating because he wanted to get out of the wrestling for a while. He just wanted to do the commentating like Jesse Ventura would do.
On your screen, there'll be
Yep.
So that's what he's doing now. Kind of playing that Jesse Ventura, Bobby Heenan kind of guy. So Kelsey, here's the thing with Matt. He,
Say jabs to the throat on Mr. Macho.
in the ring, he was great offensively, but he was just tough to take bumps with. He was not the one that was going to get body slammed or suplexed.
Everyone drank it.
Those high maneuvers. But he could deliver everything. And on the mic, he was one of the best interviews. He had the gift to do an interview.
After Mr. Macho. Mr. Destruction.
I remember a lot of the guys, because Matt was me and Matt were pretty tight back then, and I would, there was a time where me and Matt had all the belts, and the kind of guys kind of didn't like that so much, and Matt used to get booed a lot, and I remember Chris Barter would be commentating, he'd say, despite his preference in country, not the most popular among our ringside fans. that always pissed Matt off when he'd hear that. That's why Matt, for the longest time, he kept asking me, can I please be a heel? I want to go heel. Because he was tired of it. If they're going to boo me, let them boo me for a reason.
Yeah.
Here's your official winners.
He was a good villain.
Yeah. I remember there's another taping that I have of you guys, you and your brother were being interviewed in the garage, and apparently Matt was telling to let Ryan win the match because Matt was reffing. And you guys brought it up on the interview, and Matt got pissed, and he come out there and he started trying to take the nunchucks, trying to choke one of you two.
Or one half of the invaders at any rate. Invader number one. Now here
Yeah,
comes
there's so
Invader number
many.
two. You guys have been signed.
Now,
with
Terry
contract
Black, I've said it
signed
before,
on
he was
last
excellent in
week.
the ring,
You two will be wrestling
but he was a
each
nervous
other
wreck on
after destruction,
camera.
just like you wanted for the
He
National
just would
Championship.
get camera. He's like the camera. He was afraid of.
Special plan for them guys.
Look in the camera, you get afraid.
You're gonna be on a stretcher.
Where he says. Not too many words from Invader number two. He's probably too angry for words. He's got a lot. If he can get a shot of this.
Yeah,
knee,
Chad.
he's got a lot to
He
be,
ended up leaving the show because he hurt his knee in football.
The Invaders will be wrestling
And so he just couldn't do the wrestling anymore.
Tag Team Championship at the Anoka Armory on October
The bigger guy.
17th. Don't you dare miss it. We'll be right back.
Yep.
NWF All-Star Wrestling.
You know, sorry to say, you know, his injury was my
We're gonna bring you the best professional wrestling Minnesota has to offer.
my reward.
First match this
Yeah,
afternoon
because they had to drop the national tag titles.
lightweight match.
Yep.
So you know we're replicating, Troy, all the belts. You remember the really good tag team belts you guys had that Steve would never let you take home?
Yep.
Those are getting replicated.
I saw that. I saw you were doing that. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, when we're done with the show, I'll share with you the preliminary design of that lightweight tag title, what it's going to look like.
I
But
think
yeah,
the
we're
only
just-
other person, I think the only other person aside from the maker that's seen this is me.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't. I usually wait till I get the official artwork back from Belt Patch, but. So this Russian trooper, Dave, is he one of the guys from? Isn't that Troy Sufka there?
I think
This might be
so.
brother. This is probably brother against brother. This is something we should have done with the Super Ds. Well, who would? Then the question is, who's going to win?
That's for sure me. Todd's not here. I mean, yeah.
I'll tell you, at Sandburg Middle School, I'll never forget. So we got this show, and I lined it up with Mrs. Kiputh because she was my teacher, and she said, "Yeah, you can bring the wrestling in. We'll do it as part of community school." I said, "Great." And so we have all these the matches lined up, and Todd comes around the corner. I'm like, "Where's your brother?" "I think he took the bus home." I said, "You gotta be kidding me!" So we're gonna have one half the Super Ds. Well, Terry showed up. So I think we had Invader 1 against Super D 2, but yeah, that there was about 20 or 30 kids that showed up for that from Sandburg that just watched. It was like a real live little studio audience that we had in the back gym. They did it in the back gym. Yeah, that was kind of fun. I like.
But no, Troy,
Yep.
just so you know, it is good quality that Sean gets.
Absolutely. No, I've seen it. It looks really good. The
Yeah,
real
those
deal.
belts. Those belts are pretty sharp, and for the lightweight. So what I do is I take screenshots of the belts that Steve designed these originally, and I take the main things that I can make out that are on there, and then I just dressed it up as best I can.
Yeah.
So they basically shape-wise and size-wise, and for the main parts, they're going to resemble the way they look.
I saw Matt Kelsey was saying he needs a belt or something like that, but you're telling me tonight he still has it.
Yeah, he's got the original. I don't know if it's in parts or pieces, but because Matt never when we started to merge away from the kids wrestling and Matt was a champion, they wanted him to lose that belt to their guys, and Matt wasn't going to have it, so he just kept the belt and just no-showed the whole deal. So he's still got the belt. I don't blame Matt for that. I really don't. He's seen what I couldn't see at the time. He knew what was going to come of it, with what they were going to have him do with that belt. And besides that, at that time, Matt was going to Tino Grace, I think, at that point now, and he's just getting busy with other stuff. He just didn't have as much time anymore like he used to.
Now Kelsey's leaving too. What commitment you see from these young men.
Yeah, out of the Blade Runners, Todd Sufka, the littler one, he was pretty good, I think, in the ring. Like he could take the.
Now that we don't have any more problems, we've got a.
And I don't know if that's him in there now. I think it is.
I still say that megaphone. I've been joined here now by Bulldog the Butcher. That megaphone is a pain in the you-know-where. I'd love to shove that megaphone up Roger Hart's nose, I'll tell you.
But yeah, what I remember though, like Troy back in the day, you were the talker of the two. You were a lot more social than Todd was. Todd was more reserved.
Yep. My dad always said, your mouth's going to get you in trouble someday.
I did not mean to do that. Okay, back to the action.
Todd reminded me of that. Like this past summer, we were on a call together, and we kind of got into it a little bit and started lipping back and forth. And that's what he reminded me. Dad always said your mouth's going to get you in trouble someday.
Yeah. Yeah, Todd was a little more reserved, but I remember you, like, even in the interviews, you'd always would start out talking usually in the interviews. I wish we would have done more work with our interviews, though. You know, we could have made them.
Yeah, more
We should have
promo work.
practiced. Yeah, you know, more practicing for what we were gonna say instead of just winging it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, me and Todd obviously played professional soccer for a lot of years, and probably the coolest thing when we both retired, the Milwaukee Wave. There's only, I think they're the longest running professional soccer franchise in North America, and they retired both of our numbers. So our number 19 and 17 and the Dusosky jerseys are hanging up in the U.S. Cellular Arena in Milwaukee. And I was like, that was pretty cool. We had a big ceremony, and thinking about talking, I was like, they're like, who wants to go first? And I was like, I'm going first. So I must have been the mic hog back in the day.
Well, that's pretty cool. So that's where those numbers come from.
On the emails, yeah.
In your email names.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're enjoying the matches that we've had so far.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, you guys are in the retired there. You're in the NWF's Hall of Fame. First tag team actually in our NWF Hall of Fame. There's that famous blue belt. That's
got the plaque on the nightstand. So
yeah. That's I wanted to do plaques back in the day. I just couldn't afford it back then. So then I thought, when I get a chance someday, I'm going to do those plaques up.
Well, hopefully, you know, next Hall of Fame, maybe I can get an induction, earn one of those plaques.
We're gonna do one more Hall of Fame, and then that'll be it. Because we figured the league existed 4 years. We're only gonna do 4 years worth of Hall of Fames.
Right.
It's really not a Hall of Fame as much as it's a Hall of recognition, really. You know,
Right.
recognizing who stood out in the league. I don't want people to think we're boasting that we're super famous, but I did send the tapes out to 22 different states, so it did air. Yeah. When we say national, it was in a sense national. I literally circulated the tapes not only around all the metro, but to 22 different major cities. So they did go out.
The precursor to the October Armory.
Yeah, that's what this whole show was kind of trying to build up for, that October card. I bet Troy, I bet you guys are really, because that was a sellout. That's the one I bet you really wished you could have wrestled on. You and Todd.
I mean, from my memory, the one that we did wrestle in, I felt like there was a pretty good crowd there too.
Oh yeah, May 9th it was.
Yeah.
350 fans on that one, that first one.
Yep. I was front row ringside at that show.
Dave was in attendance on that one. That's how he got into it. You know what I remember in that first Armory card is how exciting it was to actually go out of that dressing room to the ring. Because all of us on the show have been wanting to do that forever. Right?
Yep. Yeah, no, walking out, it's dark in the stands and the ring's lit up, and
it looks so much better in person than it does on video. You know, like the way the ring was lit up,
and you get that there. And the first time you walk up to the ring and you get that real pop.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then when they do their moves, like with the Super Ds, every time they did their big spots, they got huge applause from the crowd in that match.
You know, I mean, that's one thing about like our studio shows, and, you know, the crowd reaction wasn't quite the same as the Armory shows.
No, except the Sandberg. The Sandberg Middle School thing, I mean, I don't have the tapes, but I remember those kids being into it. They were all wrestling fans, the ones that showed up. Like, they were into the matches. And then at the end, we let them all come into the ring. And so I got like 20 or 30 kids that aren't on the show rushing into the ring. I'm like, we shouldn't have had all these kids come in at once. Who knows what they're going to do in there?
You got that sore leg there, Mr. Mako.
Well, and
But
that's
yeah, this-
one thing
Take advantage of that. We might just have to-
I've enjoyed is, you know, when I lived in South Dakota for a few years, I had a friend that ran a company out there, and every time there was a local show and my friends from Minnesota would come out, at first they'd all say, "Oh, when you wrestle, those rings are so soft." And yeah, the ring that my friend had wasn't as soft as our ring.
Yeah, every ring is
So-
different. Remember the Fred Moore ring? Remember how hard
Oh.
that son of a gun was? That thing was a boxing ring that had no. It was on the cement floor
Yep.
with like wrestling mat pads. That was hard as that was hard. Unforgiving.
Yep,
ring.
Yep, I remember that match that we watched a few weeks ago. My first match ended with a basic body slam.
What were do
Just
you guys recall any like anybody get seriously hurt or injured, or what was like some of the worst injuries you've seen?
Well, the worst thing that happened really was that I can remember is in Fred Moore, and it was me that did it out of all people. I mean, you remember the Tokyo Terror, Peter Wynn? He was on Fred Moore stuff. He was our Japanese wrestler.
Okay.
Tokyo Terror. So he and I had a match, and I did a forward pile driver.
Like a
And he-
tombstone style pile driver.
like a tombstone style, right? And he thought I was doing it the other way, and so his head just slipped out and just went, and I pile drived him. And he didn't get up, and he's feeling his neck, and everybody rushed into the ring like they're doctors. And we're like, oh my God, what happened? And it turned out he was okay, but his dad said, that's it. You're done. You're not doing that anymore. So that kind of put an end to the Tokyo Terror. But I remember I ran into Peter at Super Bowl, the bowling alley. 2 years after that. And I asked him, I said, how's your neck? He's like, it still kind of bugs me a little bit. But he goes, otherwise it's fine. But he said it's still... And Peter was honest as... the thing with Peter Wynn, Tokyo Terror, he paid this vicious sneak attack guy, but he couldn't be anything but. And he was so honest, he would never tell a lie. So when he told me his neck was still hurting, he probably was telling me the truth. But I'm the one that did that. Out of all the people, Jesus. I still think of that.
Well, that and my little accident with
Terry
Invader.
Block.
Yeah.
Yes, he hurt his in the October card. Did a botched power slam, right?
Yep.
And he hurt his
I
ribs.
picked him up and he shifted. He shifted funny when I was picking him up, and
And Vader won. He was a kind of a smaller guy, a little more fragile, I guess you could say, and didn't take much.
So when did you say you think you're getting Kelsey on sometime in the next month?
Yeah, I was thinking, because Dave and I want to try to go. I mean, next week we got Jamie McParland. You don't know him. He came on the show basically when you left, but he's coming on next week, and then we're gonna try to go like every other week.
Yeah.
So we're thinking maybe we get Kelsey like sometime in March here.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen.
It'd be a good time to bring him in, I think. I think we're getting to, yeah, we're kind of, this show is just about ready to end here after this interview, I believe. And then, because here's the, so this is the Blade Runner. Do you remember these guys, Troy?
These are the
Blade
Blade
Runners?
Runners.
No, I don't have anything to say.
So what happened is you got stripped and they got the belts, and then we did a Saturday afternoon special with, we had you guys there and these guys, and they had the belts, and we were building up the rematch. And Bobby Ferrari was guest hosting the show. I mean, he kept ripping on these guys, and when you watch, you and Todd were just laughing every time because Bobby was so funny. He would crack jokes and stuff. They were trying to accuse him of being the Dynamite Dude, and he goes in this show, he goes, "I'm no Dynamite Dude," and Bobby goes, "You said it, baby." Oh, he was funny. Bob Pfeiffer.
after the Super D's for the Lightweight Championship of the World on October the 17th at the Anoka Armory. We'll be right back.
I think we got an interview with you guys too coming up now.
Excuse us, but this week's main event of the 6-man tag team match has been delayed till next week. We have one more interview left with the Super D's.
Yep, Super D's. So here's your guys' final interview for the at the end of the show here.
6-man tag team match. So long, everybody.
They're going to be wrestling the men we just heard, the Blade Runners, for the Lightweight Championship.
I was back in the dressing room listening to what they said. They said that they were going to kill us and go home with the titles. What a bunch of wimps.
Nobody even knows where they come from. So if they go home with the titles, they might be lost forever.
They think they're hot. They're going to be hot when they're down on the ground sweating. By us.
The Lightweight Champions of the world, very confident they're going to be defending against the Blade Runners on October the 17th. And we've got a lot more matches signed.
You know that those jackets you guys are wearing? I remember Mike Bauer got that whole outfit for you guys on the July card. Those jackets and shorts and everything.
We're done.
Trying to get you guys like an identical
so you can do the twin magic type stuff. And
well, we did that actually with the. I remember in the garage we did the switcheroo thing, where we had Todd like he was all hurt, and then Troy came in and rolled out, and Troy went in, and then he acted like he was hurt, and then he was fresh. Yeah, we did that whole bit. So yeah.
I had my neighbor watching tonight, and he's like, sends me a text telling me I should see what this mouth can do now.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, the guys were small, lightweight wrestlers, but one of the most popular teams on the show, no doubt about that. And the Armory card is a perfect judge of that. You just listen to the crowd when you guys came out. Everybody liked the Super D's. I don't think we could ever have you go heel. And not at least not in those days.
I don't think fans would have booed him back then.
Let me tell you a story about that. Remember Andrew Carlson, Ace? He was Matt's friend, and he wanted to be a bad guy. Okay, he wanted to be a heel, and he was popular with the girls and popular and everything. He had that goody two shoe type face, and so I figured the only way to make him get people hate him, because everybody liked me on the show, so I figured I'm just going to take a dive from him and let him win the title, and that will make everybody so mad that'll put him over, and it sure as hell did, because our NWF hotline started ringing. People were calling in. Most of the people who watched our show back then were kids, and they were calling in. These kids, usually, judging by the recordings, they're probably Wade's age, and they're saying, "We want a rematch. That wasn't right. We want a rematch. That Ace shouldn't get the." They were pissed. So that's the way I figured. That's the way we would get those guys to get put over. So let's see. I'm going to show you guys before we leave here with you, Troy. I want to show you what I'll just take a sneak peek here at the. Let's see. This is what the lightweight title belts will look like. You got to kind of visualize it. You got to figure that. Remember how those national titles look with the shiny silver look?
Yep.
So this is what the lightweight tag team title belts will look like. And the main thing is the flags, that's that oval symbol, and then the circle gold thing on the top and those little clover things. These are the things that were on the belt. And then I just kind of decorate it up as best I can to make it look nice. And
yeah, it's cool.
But yeah, that's going to be the NWF lightweight tag team titles is when we do eventually get to it. That'd be pretty cool.
What would happen today if you started doing this and getting kids into it and stuff again?
Oh gosh, I don't know. In today's day and age, I don't even know if you could get away with it.
Right.
You know, from a liability standpoint.
Right.
With the helicopter parenting and.
I was just going to say.
I mean, who would let their kid? We were just of a different era. Yep, you know, our parents let us do this stuff. That's how it was in the 80s. You know?
I mean, one question Sean's constantly gotten is, where were the parents?
Yeah. People ask that a lot. And they were there. They watched the show. I mean, I know Matt's dad watched it every week too. And at the Armory cards, my dad was always there. Our parents were there, but they just let us run it. That's the difference now than
They figured it was better. It was better us doing that and not getting in trouble than,
yeah.
It was a good way to occupy our time.
Although I'll tell you something, when I built that ring for the first Armory card that we did, a lot of that lumber came from the apartment complex that was getting built down the street by the McDonald's, because my neighbor friends, they needed to build a half pipe. I needed to build the ring. So I said, hey guys, let's meet out here about midnight and let's get our plywood. And that's exactly what we did. Great. Yeah. So, I mean, we stayed out of trouble to a degree, but yeah, so it was fun. We stayed
out of trouble enough to not get caught.
Yep. Well, Troy, it was fun. I hope you liked coming on with us. We really enjoyed having you.
Yeah, for sure. Little, not gonna lie, little pissed at my tag team partner that he didn't get on. I know he's got Thursday night. He had a board meeting or something, and I was trying to text him, and he hasn't even responded back. So.
Yeah, we kind of knew that going in, and not only that, but stuff happens. Like I told Dave, cards subject to change, just like they did back in the day. The card's subject to change, so sometimes stuff happens. But maybe when soccer season's over, we can have you guys come back on again, both of you. And,
like last week, our guests gave us notice that they couldn't make it. And, we switched our guest around, and the music that's in our countdown, his kids are in a band, and they gave us rights to use their music.
Yeah.
Cool. So.
And I want to talk a little bit before we go about next week, Dave. Next week, we're going to take a look at, it's going to be, I hope I have the text right this time. Yeah, I do. NWF TV Taping 101 from the Dayton studios out in Dayton, Minnesota with Jamie McParlin. And back then, I think he was going by the Irish Terror. So he changed his name so many times. But a natural when he got in that ring. He was really good. And I'm looking forward to talking
it'll be
Jamie.
Good. It'll be good to see him. I haven't seen him since I left the NWF.
He's another one. All the guys that are in our show were just huge fans at the time, and they wanted to do this so bad. So we were just lucky to have guys like the Super D's and Jamie and Terry Block and Vader One, all these guys that were really Kid Kelsey that were just diehards. They were diehard wrestling fans at the time, and just wanted to be a part of it. Is really what
exactly.
It was. So thanks a lot though, Troy, for coming on. It's great to see you again. I haven't seen you since we were talking before we came on, since 1986. It's been that long.
Yeah, wish I had that hair again. I'm sure we all do.
Yeah, you guys had the blonde hair back then, right?
Well, I mean, I still got a pretty good full head of hair.
You do, yeah. I got
shave it.
Not 1986 anymore, but yeah, it's great catching up. Thanks for having me on and bringing back some great memories. Looking forward. I'm gonna look that up on Prime and watch that and tune into the show more often and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, as we always say to the alumni of the NWF, everybody's welcome to come on. We like to try and set things up a couple weeks in advance.
Yeah, we just like to do it 2 weeks so we can at least say the week before that we're going to have so and so on.
Yeah.
But
then get a firm lock-in guarantee that they're going to be there.
But like I was jokingly with these guys, I was saying, if Todd doesn't make it, this is Sandburg Middle School again. Only it's the other way around.
I can't remember which one made it. You're confident it was Todd that made it?
I'm positive it was Todd because and I don't know what happened. I think maybe you forgot, but because I said, because you guys were so timid back then, I said, "Where is your brother?" Because I'm only seeing him, and he's like, "I think he took the bus home." That's kind of how he answered it. Yeah. So, but what can you say? You guys were now I was going to ask you. I forgot to ask this. When you came on the show, and it would have been February of '85. How old were you?
Well, I was born in '76, May of '76. So, what's that, 9?
So say 76. Holy cow, you guys were only 9 years old. I always thought you were 11 or 12. You were only 9.
Yeah. Pretty young.
9, 10, and you're about 11 years old then at the end there.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That is crazy to think that. Well, that's been fun. And like I said, we enjoy having you on. And I hope you like the way these lightweight tag team titles turn out when they get done. They'll probably be done in a couple months.
Yeah, they look cool. I'm going to, when I get off, I'm going to go wrestle my son. So.
Well, if you want to stick around for a second, we can give you some information about those lightweight tags.
Cool.
Yeah, and as well as the DVDs. So, yeah, we'll just run the credits, guys, and then we'll see you next week.